Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I was not in a mood to make this episode, but I have to talk about it. It's about the Iranian passenger plane. I have just seen a video of a passenger in an Iranian airplane flying overhead Syria towards Beirut from Iran, and it scared the hell out of me. I mean, two fighter aircrafts came so close to this plane that this plane had to maneuver abruptly, dropping altitude, and all the passengers went upside down in the plane, and some of them are injured. They are, up till now, what we have learned from different tweets and from different news channels. Habib Abdul Hussein tweets: Iranian passenger plane buzzed by United States Air Force warplanes over Syrian airspace. This has safely landed in Tehran International Imam Khomeini Airport. A Mahan airline plane was en route to Beirut but had to change altitude quickly to avoid collision and injuring several passengers. The Japan Today news says that two US fighter jets come close to Iranian passenger plane over Syrian airspace. Two US fighter jets came close to an Iranian passenger plane over Syrian airspace, causing the pilot to change altitude quickly to avoid collision and injuring several. The Fars news agency: several injured after hostile fighter jets come close to Iranian passenger plane over Syrian airspace. Then is again there are some footages. As you can see, this person is injured. The one person is lying down. Some persons have twisted. The passenger luggage is on board, everywhere spread. The now this is interesting. Now this tweet and some other news sources claim that this was an Israeli fighter, whereas the other now are saying that this was United States Air Force plane. I have not been able to see any update from the United States military or the Israel Defense Forces. Let's see what they have to say about this. The passenger plane has come back. And now this is Nash says that waiting for the international community to condemn Israel for deliberately violating Lebanon's airspace and harassing an Iranian passenger plane full of civilians, causing harm and injury to the passenger. I am certain that nobody, not even the UN, will say anything about this. Yes, this is the case when it comes to the United States and the rogue state of Israel. Nobody says anything, at least for now. Now Radio Farda again says that the pilot of the Iran Mahan Air passenger plane says two US jets came very close to it, forcing it to drop altitude over Syria. Oh yes, Joseph Bahut tweets that conflicting version of incidents. Iranian plane was encroached over Lebanon, Damascus or Tanf, that is Syria-Iraq border. Identity of jet or jets implied. First version saying Israelis, then mainly Syrian and Iranian sources. Others saying fighters were American. Yes, this is a dichotomy going on. Let's see what happens. Again he says that and the Iranian airspace landed back to Tehran. Reuters: Iran says two US fighter jets near Iranian passenger plane over Syrian airspace. I think this does not make much difference whether it was an US airplane or US fighter jets or Israeli fighter jets. Both are one and the same thing. Now Masood Light Syria spreading lies. It was Israel jet fighters purposely getting close to Iranian passenger plane, hoping Syria will shoot in the air by mistake. Sick and nasty. Yes, this is another aspect of the incident, and Israel has already done that. We remember a Russian military airplane was shot down by the Israel air defense system, taking it mistakenly for Israeli fighter plane because they got a hiding in the beside this plane, and ultimately this Russian plane was shot. This is a dirty tactic of the Israeli Air Force, which they do, and perhaps the today's version was also this, either to show some gesture of force or hostility, or to make a fake gesture so that the Syrian defense forces shoot down that same air jet, the civilian airliner of Iran, which is again going to cause costly repercussions for Iran because of the reputation losses that it had already suffered in the Ukraine air crash. Now this is again interesting. Norman Ruel tweets that the passenger and cargo manifest of the Iranian plane would no doubt be of interest. Yes, obviously. Who was on board? Was there any important person on board? This is going to be very important. Yaqub Fadli tweets, a regional diplomat who spoke to AI Arabia English on condition of anonymity questioned the route of the plane and said that was not a regular flight path for airliners. But if it was not a regular flight path for airliners, was that a regular flight path for the intruding aircrafts? Was Syrian airspace open to Israeli or Americans? That was again not the part. So I think they are trying to convert the story to some other direction, putting the blame, and this is I think this is smart engineering being done on the internet. And Daniel Larison tweets, in addition to being very dangerous for the civilians, our planes have no business being in Syrian airspace. Yes, this is very true, and this is what is the answer to the above post. What are the US fighter jets or the Israeli fighter jets doing in the Indian space? And as I am talking, you can hear in the background and a commercial airliner is flying passing overhead me. I think there's an airport closer by and they must be landing. I made this video because of the video made by the passenger inside that airplane, who then later on spread that video, and it scared the hell out of him or her, all of the passengers and all those like us who are seeing to this. I mean, once you're sitting in an airliner and there are abrupt maneuvers in an airliner, it is going to scare the hell out of you, I'm sure. Razi tweets that Iranian hand is on the trigger. The Israeli or US regime fighter jets caused a dangerous disturbance against the Iran passenger plane, and this will not go unanswered. No one will survive. Obviously, Iran has the right to retaliate, but I don't know how will they retaliate. They will do it some other theater. Yes, this is important. Abbas Aslani tweets, Ambassador of Switzerland to Tehran as protector of the US interests in Iran has been informed that Iran will hold US responsible if anything happens to the passenger plane. Mahan was on the way back home, said Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson. Yes, it was en route and now it has landed back safely. So this was an official channel started by the Iranian. This is the route of the airplane from I think it is coming back from Beirut, you can see on the left of the screen, to Iran on the right of the screen. Vertigo tweets a very, very sad thing, retrospective. USA shot down an Iranian plane full of passengers back in the 80s. It's the same USA. So if somebody has any confusion, the United States cannot do this, or they did not have any intentions or maybe a plan to shoot down this aircraft, their history speaks something else. Now Beirut airport head says, this is tweeted by Track Persia, all passengers on Iranian plane exited, only minor injuries. Zero Hedge, Israeli fighter jets intercepts Iranian passenger plane over Syria, nearly causing collision. You can understand all of us who have been flying on airplanes in the air, We know that these planes fly with bullet speed, and once they collide with each other, or even a bird collide with a plane, it can cause havoc. So what to talk of a mid-air collision between the two planes. David Decam to its two US fighter jets almost collided with an Iranian passenger plane in Syrian airspace. The passenger plane had to make a quick maneuver which injured some of the passengers. This was given by Reuters. Now, Press TV says Israeli fighter jets flies close to Iranian Han airline passenger plane over Damascus make it reduce altitude, which means it has to dip down, nose down, to reduce altitude, so avoid the collision. There's a video, I think you'll see. Can so this is a video probably made by the passenger and on board, later on shared by Arab News, in which we can hear that sudden change of altitude or something sudden is happening to the plane, for which the passengers are fearful and they are reciting these holy verses and calling extraordinary help from the providence. This was one video, and there was some other video after the incident, in which the passengers were found injured and in bad shape. If I can show you that video, is it available on any tweet? Now this is let us wait here. Fred tweets, is this a joke? If this is true, what the fuck should US do to be considered terrorist attack or a terrorist state? I mean, imagine if this plane would have been shot down because of mid-air collision, because of maneuvering, swift abrupt maneuvering, or because of the Syrian air defenses, and so many lives would have been lost. Who would have been responsible for this? Even if United States has some concerns, firstly, they're not allowed to fly over the Syrian airspace because it is a sovereign nation. Secondly, if at all, you cannot do like this, or you have to give up an early warning for that, and you have to make the plane force land somewhere, and then you want to evacuate or take somebody who is considered maybe a terrorist, whatever it is. So there's a tweet from Israel Defense Forces, but I don't think this is very relevant. In accordance with the recently conducted situational assessment, we have decided to reinforce the Northern Command with select infantry forces. It was 17 hours ago, so I don't think this is going to match or synchronize with this post. Okay. Amir 13 tweets, approaching the Iranian passenger plane was actually approaching Azrael, the angel of your death. You'll soon feel the fire in your homes. And he quoted a post from the Jerusalem Post, tweet from Jerusalem Post. An Israeli fighter jet came close to an Iranian passenger plane over Syrian airspace, causing several injuries when the pilot had to change direction to avoid a collision. This was admitted by the Jerusalem Post, that the fighter planes were Israelis. Again, then the news from Press TV and Arab News and all of these things. I think this is another video from another passenger. See what happens. I think this has happened after that incident.
عم صور صاير بلكي متنا
Okay, so that is all, and this is still a developing story. You can follow that on Twitter or whatever channel you like. This is available almost on everywhere on the internet. But we hope and pray, sir, that something should be done about this, because it was about the lives of so many people, whether Iranian or whether Europeans or whosoever were they, and they were on that plane, on a commercial airplane, and they were unarmed civilians, and if at all there were any concerning person on board that plane. This is not the way. This